Happy Saturday, Nashville. 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are brought to you by LPL Financial Nashville and Patrick Conger. Investment advice for you in the short term and for the future. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Jake Wallman alongside you this morning. Sadly, no Connor Newt.
He'll be back.
He will be. Connor, we hope you're feeling better if you're out there listening. We miss you. So no Newt's notes today. Sadly, we will not get Connor's wise insights this Saturday, but and he won't be here next weekend too.
Oh my!
So we won't have a full Connor Newt show again until February 15th. But
wow, that's gonna be a while.
Yeah,
did not think about that.
Yeah, but I believe we are going to get his live Newt's notes from Rupp Arena next week. I think that's supposed to be the plan. So excited to talk with Connor Newt next week and hope he's feeling better. He's a little under the weather today. But guys, how's your week been?
It's been eventful.
Yes, that is true. Yes, we know your week has been eventful. Yeah. You know, we've talked about car trouble on this show plenty of times. Me and Connor have both had instances with our car having issues since the show started. It was your turn this week.
It was, and I unfortunately did not want to be in that little fender bender, but you know, things happen. So hopefully my car is okay. That's what I'm really hoping for, because from what people have told me, that, you know, I've seen my car, it looks bad on the outside, but as for structure, it seems to be okay. So if I'm able to put a donut on it and drive it off the tow lot, I'm okay with that.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Yes. If you can drive it out, you can go get it fixed somewhere and you'll be good.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that happens, but you know, it's all up in the air. But today I'm excited. I think I'm either today or tomorrow I'm going out to go see my hog.
Good luck. We'll have to get an update next week on the show.
Indeed.
Jake Wallman, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. On my personal text line, Connor just texted me and said that my car's next. So I don't like this bad juju he just put on me.
Gracious.
Wow.
But other than that, I mean, I guess we're starting off the morning hot.
Man, yeah, Connor Newt. Although he may be sick, he's throwing the threats out there. Your car's next. It's not great to have car trouble, but hopefully everything works out for you moving forward in the next couple of days. Let's get to our headlines here this morning. Nick Frazier, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it before the show to you. Scotty Scheffler back on the course. I think the first couple rounds he was like 2 under and then 3 under. So going into the third round today, he's 5 under. So this is a good little, I guess, preseason for him. Obviously coming off of the winter injury he had about cutting his hand on a wine glass. He was rolling out raviolis. I did a little bit of extra research. He was cutting out raviolis. That's why he missed all this time. So everybody wants to see world number 1 back on top once again. It's fun to watch him. It really is. I mean, I'm not the biggest golfer, but I love watching it. It's just a blast. Especially to see him.
And especially we're getting towards the time of year where every month you get a big event. Is Waste Management next week?
I believe so. Either next week or the following week.
Obviously, that's not one of the more prestigious events on tour, but it's probably the most fun event on tour because of that stadium hole at the 16th, I mean, the gallery just gets wasted, and they sit there all day and heckle. It's such a different kind of golf than anybody is used to. It's a party around a green on a par 3. It's awesome.
It's a glimpse of what Live Golf does on a regular basis in a roundabout way, and PGA's like, yeah, we'll embrace this thing till the cow comes home.
And I mean, was it 2 years ago that it was the same weekend as the Super Bowl in Phoenix, and that it was just that whole metro area was just slammed because basically the whole world's eyes were on the Phoenix metro area for an entire weekend. This year, Super Bowl in New Orleans, but I think the Waste Management is next weekend. So that'll be fun to watch. And then we're a month away from like the Players. Is that the Players usually in March?
Yeah.
And then Masters obviously in April.
Yeah.
So excited for golf to be back.
Yeah. Almost back in full swing.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
And we got the TG. Yeah, there you go. And we got the TGL going to, it is golf season once again. Jake Wallman, what's your headline this morning?
I was going to go with the Tennessee Summit announcement that came out yesterday. But I think I just saw from Grant Ramey that covers the Vols that Zakai Ziegler is officially out today with a knee. He went down in close to the second half, or close to the end of the first half, of Tuesday night's game with Kentucky. He did come back and play, but that was a scary scene, and now he's not going to play. So, Frazier, Tennessee is officially in trouble today,
Well, I kind of
as they always are.
yes. Thank you for saying that the right way.
And I was going to give you guys props. I was sitting there watching the Kentucky game, and I was just thinking, I don't think this team is what I thought they were in November and December. So, props to you both for noticing that early on.
Well, it's just like Tennessee always comes out the gates hot, and you have to look at their schedule. And like we talked about this with Connor. Well, Jake was out doing, I think, Vandy or something.
Yeah,
one of the two.
he was somewhere on leave.
Yeah, and like I mentioned it to you, their schedule at the beginning of the season, it was competitive. It was fun to watch. Like the Illinois game when Illinois was ranked and they won like the buzzer. Like everybody's like, oh man, that really has defined Tennessee to be like the blue blood college basketball program that they've been wanting to be. But I looked right through it. I'm just waiting for actual, proof that they're a good ball club that can go deep into March. And I just haven't seen it.
I mean, the SEC is just so hard.
Yeah.
You look at their schedule. Yeah, they could lose their third straight today, but all of those are against top 15 teams, right? Like Kentucky and then
Kentucky,
Auburn, obviously,
Florida.
And then you had a win in between, but then Vanderbilt going back. I love the comment from Rick Barnes. We've lost 3 games, but they've all been to top 10 teams, and all the Vandy fans are going with that, saying, wow, Vandy's a top 10 team. Didn't realize, but they are ranked 23rd, 23rd, 24th in the country.
Yeah, women's 23rd.
Women's are 23rd.
How about that, Jake Lyman?
That brings me to my headline. I mean, I don't like using my headline for Vandy women's basketball every time, but Michaela Blake's on Thursday night gave me no choice. I know that some of the shows yesterday talked about it. If anybody was listening, I know Robbie and Rexroad talked about it, DVD, but Michaela Blake's on Thursday night, 53 points. That is the new SEC record overall. That is a record that had stood for nearly 50 years. 51 was for all classes. This is not just freshmen. 51 was the most points scored by an SEC player. Michaela Blake's broke that with 53 on Thursday night in Florida. And a new NCAA true freshman record with 53 points, breaking Juju Watkins' previous mark of 51. Elena Del Don, it's a weird situation. Elena Del Don, who played at Delaware, she played volleyball her freshman year and then joined the basketball team her sophomore year, but was technically in basketball eligibility a redshirt freshman. So she technically has the freshman record with 54. It's a whole weird thing, but Michaela Blake's the true freshman NCAA record with 53 points on only 24 shots. It's not like she shot a lot of free throws, 16 of 18 at the free throw line, but she missed her first 2 shots of the game and then finished 16 of 22. And put up 53 points in 35 minutes down the stretch.
That's video game material.
She was unstoppable. In the final 5 minutes, Florida was making a run. They got it back within 10 points. And Camille Pierre was on the bench, she's averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds. She had a tough night shooting the ball. Was, I think, 1 for 10 from the floor. And Ayanna Moore, who had scored 22 in the game, she fouled out. So basically every time down, it was Michaela Blake's was getting the ball, and she was going to go try and score. And she did. And she won the game for Vanderbilt. 4 straight wins in the SEC for the first time since 2014. And Michaela Blake's with maybe the greatest performance I've ever seen in person, which brings me to my question of the day.
Oh,
what is the greatest athletic individual performance you've seen in person?
This is a really good question.
Because I was talking with some of the staff at Vanderbilt on the plane home, and I was saying, I think, and I've seen a lot of sports in person, I think that is the greatest individual performance I've ever seen. She was unstoppable for the entire game. So I want to know, in person, what is the greatest individual performance that you've seen? And we'd love to hear from you as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You can text or call. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get to our answers I mean, I kind of gave mine away, I think. But we will get to the rest of our answers coming up at the top of the 10 o'clock hour. But we'd love to hear from you again, 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Great show coming up the rest of the way. Beth Hewitt, the head coach of Vanderbilt lacrosse, is going to join us at 9:45 as they get ready to start their season a week from today. We're going to talk about the Titans coming up in the 10 o'clock hour, the Senior Bowl being played today. Obviously, a lot of draft picks that are going to be playing in that game. They've been practicing all week. The Titans brass has been down there. But coming up next, the Tennessee Summit, as Jake Wallman alluded to, could be joining the WNBA in 2028. We will talk about the bid that was announced earlier this week. That's coming up next here on 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game today for Vanderbilt men's basketball. The number 24 Commodores take on Oklahoma with a 2:30 p.m. tip. The pregame show with Kevin Ingram and Tim Thompson starts at 2. Coverage is also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com. Vanderbilt men's basketball is presented by Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball. Coming to Nashville's Municipal Auditorium February 5th through March 2nd. Go to auprobasketball.com for more details and to purchase tickets. 4's Company on this Saturday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Jake Wallman with you. No Connor Newts, sadly, on the show today. Just went through our headlines and our question of the day. After I saw Michaela Blake's drop 53 on Thursday night, I want to know, what is the greatest individual performance you've seen in sports in person And we want to hear from you. 615-737-1025. You can text or call in. Again, we will get to those answers coming up at 10 o'clock. But first, let's get into the WNBA bid that has been made. I know Nashville, there's been talk over the last few years about adding a fourth professional sports team, along with the Titans, the Preds, and Nashville SC. Everyone kind of thought it was going to be the MLB. That was the trend was, Major League Baseball wants to expand. Nashville would be a good market for it. But the bid came out earlier this week that the Haslam family, the owners of the Predators, along with celebrities like Candace Parker, Tim McGraw, Peyton Manning, have come together to make a bid to join the WNBA in 2028, the Tennessee Summit, named after the obviously legendary head coach of the Tennessee Lady Vols, Pat Summitt. And I think this is a great idea. I think that there is a market for this in Tennessee, in Nashville, and obviously the namesake of the legendary head coach with a tie to the state is going to make it go a long way. And I can't really see a reason why this wouldn't be accepted and have a WNBA team coming to Nashville in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this city is always hungry for a new sports team, especially if it's basketball, because there is I'd say not a popular market of Grizzly fans here in Nashville, but definitely some followers. And I'm sure there are a lot of female basketball followers as well here in Nashville. And I mean, we all see it with Vandy women's basketball. There's always a great turnout for those games. And with the way they've been playing, Shea Ralph has their team going well. I think this is a great thing for Nashville in general. I mean, having Candace Parker as one of the big faces going into this, I mean, she's also a WNBA legend to some degree, playing for the Chicago Sky, I believe, for the longest time, but then becoming an analyst for TNT. It's just great exposure and buildup for this coming in 2028 is what they mentioned. So, I mean, it's perfect. And you have Peyton Manning, who has his thumb in everything. I mean, it's just like, I'm going to get into this, I'm going to get into production, so forth, all that. But yeah, it's just pretty cool. And I think read somewhere that Pat Summitt's son, Tyler, is going to be involved in some regard.
Yes. And he gave his stamp of approval to use the name. I think it's a slam dunk. No pun intended. I don't see any reason why this would not go through. Nashville has shown to be a great sports city. They embrace the teams when they come here. Obviously, the Titans, they had the Super Bowl run early on, and that kind of built the fan base there. The Predators, maybe a little slower early on, but the city has embraced hockey. I think women's basketball, even though it may not be the most popular sport nationally, here, the Lady Vols they're one of the top two biggest brands in women's college basketball, even though they haven't been winning national titles in the last 15 years. It's them and UConn.
Yeah.
In terms of long-term success at women's college basketball. And that builds a fan base. It builds a brand. And I think there are a lot of Lady Vols fans in Nashville. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but there's a growing fan base for Vanderbilt women's basketball. And if the Tennessee Summit were to join in 2028, if a certain player was to play all 4 years at Vanderbilt, they would be draft eligible in 2028.
Is that
in
so?
Michaela Blake's. Not to put the cart in front of the horse here, but how perfect would that be if, yes, you have the Lady Vols ties and you can bring in that side of the fan base with the Tennessee Summit and the obviously big brand, and they've got the colors that are kind of like the Lady Vols already in there. But then you bring in somebody who could end up being the face of Vanderbilt women's basketball and kind of conjoin them and make this pro basketball team, and you would immediately have a fan base that would want to go watch those games. Again, getting way ahead of myself. Like Michaela Blake's has been great, but she's still a freshman. Yeah. But how cool would that be if that ended up being the first pick that the Tennessee Summit made in the WNBA draft was a local player?
It'd be full circle. It'd be exactly what Nashville wants. I mean, especially as a Nashville guy growing up in the market. Like, I love when there's always a Nashville connection to something. Because everybody's like, oh, yo, that's my hometown. Yeah.
Right.
Like when Mookie Betts went to Boston, he started kind of just blowing up in MLB baseball. I'm just like, I knew that guy back in high school when my brother played with him. I remember going to his games. He's a Nashville local. So, like, if you have a girl like that to be drafted to the Tennessee Summit from Vanderbilt, that's perfect. That's what everybody wants.
Right. If, let's say, hypothetically, the 2027-2028 team, Michaela Blake's senior year, I mean, there's a chance that she could be a National Player of the Year candidate. You're probably getting big crowds out there at Memorial every time that they go out. Just move her right down the street. and she can play for the WNBA team, and you've got a built-in fan base that already wants to come see her play. Again, getting way too far out in front of ourselves, but
I like where
it
your head's
just
at, though.
the timing lines up so perfectly that you can see how this could just all the puzzle pieces could fall into place for this to end up being an immediate success, not one where it's like, all right, well, people will it'll grow on them as they start to have some success. No, this could just immediately jump in and be one of the biggest shows in town, which is hard to do in Nashville because there is so much pulling at your attention with all the other pro teams, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, obviously all the music and entertainment. But there's a way for the Tennessee Summit to come in and immediately have a built-in fan base, which I think would be really cool.
Yeah, and also too with the Preds in general, they do a good job of just building a fan base and culture. And I think if you want to, I wouldn't say emulate that, but definitely, have some sort of, I guess, replicated in a roundabout way in just a small regard. I think it's perfect, and that's what sports teams that come to Nashville want to do is kind of emulate what the Preds do in a roundabout way because they've done it right. And I think if you just follow that same equation, you're in for a good success, especially in this market.
And it's perfect that the Haslam family is the ones leading this because you have somebody with ownership experience. You're not bringing in just
Joe Schmo off the street.
Just a rich guy who decided he wants to own a team and has no idea what that entails. This is a family that has already owned a team. They know what they're doing. They've seen how it works. And I think that's important when you're building something from the ground up like you would be with this team, because if you do have somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, they're going to come in and they have to learn on the fly. We saw it, to make a Titans example, we saw it with Brian Callahan this year. Of, hey, he's a first-time head coach, first-time play caller, brought in a bunch of first-time coordinators around him, and we saw a lot of the trial by fire that ensued with them getting their feet wet. It's always good to have some experience. And I think that the ownership group that they've put together for this bid is the perfect group to push this thing forward.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question, Jake.
Yeah.
Again, I might be going way down the line, but what if Shea Ralph were to be offered a job for the Tennessee Summit?
See, I think there is a big difference between being a great college coach and a great pro coach.
Right.
And who knows? Shea is a great coach, and I think she probably could do both. But you've seen it at every sport that there are guys who can do it at the pro level and can't do it at the college level, or can do it at the college level and are maybe more suited for that than they are the pro level. I think Shea really loves the college game, and being able to help these young ladies not only on the court but off the court as well. I don't know if the pro game, because it's like with Jerry Stackhouse. Like Stackhouse with Vandy men's basketball, it was the opposite, where you could see him being a really good pro coach, where all he really has to do is drop the plays. He was a great strategist. Yeah. I think that's the right word.
There you go.
He was a great strategist. He knew how to maneuver the game to get his players in the right situation. But I don't think he had the developmental approach that you need for college basketball.
Yeah.
I think Shea has all of that, but I don't know if it would be something that she would want to do, to go do the pro game, because I feel like she would lose some of what she loves in the college game. So I don't know. Again, this is this is years down the road, and I don't know if that would be something she'd be interested in. But I do feel like she loves being a college coach. Yeah. So
that's fair.
Who knows?
She's built a great program so far with Vandy.
But you're right. I think finding a coach with a tie to the area, I think, would be important too. Maybe a former Lady Vol would make sense. I know obviously Tennessee tried that with Kelly Harper the last couple of years, but maybe there is somebody out there, a former player of Pat Summitt's, that would be a good fit to be a head coach for that team when they start up in 2028.
It'd be fun to watch.
It would be. And excited to hopefully get another pro sports team coming to Nashville in the next couple of years. I want to get into, in the next segment, baseball a little bit, because every time there is some expansion, I think you have to talk about possibly getting a Major League Baseball team here too. And I wonder if maybe this pushes that forward a little bit of, all right, this is starting to become not just a smaller pro sports city. This is starting to become a full-blown sports city. I don't know if we're ever going to get an NBA team. Probably very unlikely with the Grizzlies right down the road.
Yeah.
But it does feel like this is another step towards, hey, Nashville deserves a team in every sport. And we're going to talk about baseball
I
because
love it.
I think a Major League Baseball team needs to come to Nashville in the next couple of years as the MLB expands. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to chime in. And again, our question of the day, what is the greatest individual athletic performance you've seen in person? In person is the key there. Obviously, we've all seen some of the great performances of all time on TV, but you had to be there in person. What was the greatest individual performance that you've seen? 615-737-1025. Again, we'll get to those answers in the 10 o'clock hour. Tune in to 93.3 FM, Totally Hits Nashville today for MTSU men's basketball. The Blue Raiders take on UTEP at the Murphy Center. Tip-off is at 2. The pregame coverage begins at 1:30. Coverage is also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. We'll take a quick break. Okay, we're going to get into a possible MLB expansion to Nashville coming up next. You're listening to 4's Company. You're on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Little Parks and Rec for us this morning from Jake Wallman. This is one of the most underrated shows, I think, of the 21st century.
This show actually gets better as it goes.
The first season is terrible. It is. I forget who I saw say this, but it is maybe some of the worst television you'll ever see. It's only like a 6-episode season, but it's awful. But if you get through it, the rest of the show is really, really good.
It reminds me of The Office, where
Right.
When I first started watching The Office, that 6-episode first season run, where it was like, I don't know if I can make it. I mean, it just doesn't seem that funny. But when you watch the first season over again of The Office, it's hilarious,
Right?
Because you get all the jokes and stuff, and so.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to find your niche with TV, and it's like they were able to make some adjustments on some of the characters, but Parks and Rec, it's a great show.
I'll have to give it another try.
You never got through it?
Yeah,
You should do it.
I never was
Fraser.
a fan of it. I watched like 1 or 2 episodes. I'm like, I don't know if it's just me or not. I can't do it.
It's really good. Like, it doesn't get as much of the acclaim as The Office or How I Met Your Mother or Modern Family or some of those. But Parks and Rec, it's good. The Middle is another one that I like that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but I think that one's pretty funny. Check these out.
The middle's pretty good.
Yeah, that's it. The Middle's kind of like Modern Family, but instead of in California, they're in Indiana.
And the Modern Family puts me in more in line of The Office, where they have those cold opens,
right? And they do the confessionals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think those are hilarious, by the way. Confessionals and TV sitcoms like that, they're gold.
They are. I do love the mockumentary style. You know, the one I haven't gotten into, which I've heard is really funny, Abbott Elementary, which everybody I talk to who watches it says it's really funny. It's still on right now.
I want to watch that one, and then there's another one that just came on Peacock like in the last couple months called St. Dennis
Medical.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of the actors in that were in Superstore.
Concierge Marie from The Office is in
Right.
that one.
Yes. Superstore, I just watched that recently,
That's
which was
another one.
It was pretty funny. Now I wouldn't put it up on the Mount Rushmore or anything, but it was fine.
I get some TV watching it.
But yeah, that's the one I think I'm going to try and get into next is Abbott Elementary. I've heard that it's really good. Like it's rare to have an actual like TV sitcom that lasts more than 2 seasons now before it gets canceled. I think they're on season 5 now. So anyway, long tangent.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It says 4 seasons. So
yeah.
It's going 5. Yeah.
So long tangent, but Jake bringing us back with the Parks and Rec theme song. You got to give it another shot.
I will.
It's really good.
I'll have to find some free time probably tomorrow. Just give 1 or 2 episodes to watch.
The season with Paul Rudd in it is it's some of the best television that's out there.
I'm a Paul Rudd guy.
Paul Rudd, he is really funny in that show. The whole show, it gets better. The first couple episodes, you gotta fight through it. You gotta fight through it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our question today has nothing to do with sitcoms, actually. Just got off on a tangent. We want to know, what is the greatest athletic performance, individual, that you've seen in person? Again, we'll get to those coming up at the top of the hour. But back to the conversation we were having, which was the expansion into Nashville of more pro sports teams. The WNBA looks like it's going to come in 2028. Again, I think all that has to be approved, but I can't really see a reason why it wouldn't be with the ownership group they have in place. And again, Tennessee has a built-in women's basketball fan base because the Lady Vols were so good for so long. And again, Vanderbilt's starting to get back to their former glory. So I think it's, as I said, it's a slam dunk. But baseball is the one that gets the most attention. Will Nashville ever get a Major League Baseball team? I know that the MLB wants to get to 32 at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the NFL's at 32. The NHL has now moved to 32. I think we're going to see basketball and baseball follow very soon. I would guess basketball comes first. I think we're probably going to see Seattle and Vegas get basketball teams.
Yep.
And then they'll probably move the Grizzlies or the Pelicans to the east. But baseball is more of it's less set in stone. Like basketball, I feel like it's 90% chance those are the 2 cities that are going to get it. Baseball, there's a lot of AAA cities that you could see getting a major league team. Charlotte would be one of them. Obviously, Nashville. I'm blanking on some. I think Portland has been discussed as possibly a baseball city.
Yeah.
Where else? I mean, there's a few.
Because there's a lot of AA teams across the U.S., so it's kind of hard to place an MLB team in a lot of these places. But yeah, it's a minimal list, but it's just hard to figure out where.
Right. There's Montreal has been talked about as possibly getting another a team back after they move to Washington.
Yeah.
So, but I think Nashville, again, it probably is the top choice, and I think Major League Baseball would love to come to Nashville. Yes, Jake has the eight top expansion cities.
Montreal was first.
Yep.
I mean the Expos. Charlotte, I know, was on there second, and then of course my Google Chrome just collapses right in the middle of reading the list.
I know. I saw something that said MLB players voted on where they'd want to go in expansion, like what city they would like to play for, and it was overwhelming Nashville. Like 60% of players were saying Nashville or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think Nashville would be a city that the MLB wants to go into. The question is, who is going to build the stadium?
Right.
Who is going to pay is it $1 billion buy-in fee or something like that? Like it's a ridiculous number. So you have to find somebody with a lot of money, because I find it very hard to believe that Nashville and the city is going to help pay for another stadium.
Yeah.
After the whole Titans situation.
I think in the grand scheme of it all, if you look at it, it's a lot of money for a buy-in. But and I think Chase McJoe talked about this recently.
Yeah, they talked about it yesterday, didn't they?
Yeah, if it might have been Thursday, one of the two. But anyways, if you look at it, if the franchise is put in the AL, you're going to have your big market teams like the Yankees and Red Sox come. So your financial loss is going to be returned, I'd say, rather quickly. To piggyback off what Jake was saying about the list of teams or list of cities, Nashville, Montreal, Charlotte, and other three listed is Sacramento, San Antonio, and Austin. So, yeah, nothing appeals me of any of those other cities.
And like, you've already got two teams in Texas.
Yeah,
I don't really see that. Sacramento, you just left Oakland. Like, Oakland's playing in Sacramento this year, but is that really a place you want a long-term?
I think the reason why it's on the list is because the A's are playing in Sacramento this year, and if it does have a good turnout,
that's true.
I think that's their trial run when it comes to stuff like that.
What's funny about this list is that it was written, it's from CBS Sports, but what's funny about it is it was written in 2024, and it has Vegas as the 6th ranked city, while the A's are moving to, or they were.
They are.
They haven't. I don't think that's like set in stone yet. I don't think that it's official that the Athletics, like, it's trending that way. I would think there's probably a 95% chance, but I don't think that there is any binding contract sending the Athletics
with the stadium.
Yeah, right. I don't think that they have started constructing the stadium yet. I don't think it's set in stone. I think the Athletics are kind of just in the middle of nowhere right now.
Well, I mean, if you look at Vegas, they've closed down a few casinos because of this, and hotels because of this stadium. So, I mean, if you go back out of your situation like that,
I think it'll get done. It'll get done, but I don't think that it has gotten done yet, which is always a little bit. I'm sure that the Athletics are not feeling great about that.
Right.
I think the best chance for Nashville might be if a team like the Rays moves.
Yeah, you make a good point about that. And the thing that really kindles into my brain when you mentioned the Rays is that they had an ALDS series, I think 2 seasons ago, and the cheapest ticket was $2.
Yep.
ALDS.
And that's not a big stadium.
No.
Like, the fact that they can't sell that out for a playoff game is bad. And of course, now terrible circumstances with the hurricane where they have to play at the Yankees spring training site instead of their actual stadium this year. You wonder if maybe all of that snowballs into a decision to leave the city. I think that's Nashville's best chance at getting a team would be if somebody moves. But you never know. Like, there are some rich people with Tennessee ties. Like, can Arthur Smith's dad buy a team?
Not a bad idea. So this is a wild card thought, but what about the San Diego Padres? I know they're a big market team. Hear me out. They had some real bad financial issues like in 2023. They had
Yeah.
a lot of money committed to Tatis, a lot of money committed to I think
Machado.
Machado and Bogarts.
Yeah.
I get that. But if you think about it, you relocate, you don't have to pay your $1 billion buy-in fee or whatever it is. You already have marquee players on the
Right.
roster. You have a place to play in Nashville when and if they were to build a stadium. Then you're bringing in big market players. I think you're going to turn more of a profit quicker rather than if you were to go with the Rays.
I just can't see the San Diego losing the Padres after they already lost the Chargers, because then you don't have a pro sports team anymore.
That's fair.
In San Diego. I think the city of San Diego would do everything in their power to keep them there.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, looking at the NFL putting two teams like the Chargers and the Rams, both in Los Angeles, sharing the same stadium, it just makes me think like these leagues do not care about what city and what financial stance
That's a
you're
good
in.
point.
They're going to turn a profit whether they want to or not. And Nashville is a booming and hot city. As much as that pains me to say as a local because I hate the traffic, but everybody wants to come to Nashville.
Right. It's a growing city.
Yeah.
Which I think is important for this too. Yeah, maybe you're not selling out that stadium every night in season 1, but by season 3, you're going to have 20% more people in the city who are going to want to go to the games.
And I think, going back to your AL comment, it's got to be an AL team.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, there are a lot of people here, myself included, that are kind of enrooted with the Braves.
Or
And
if you have them relocate as a Padres, if you have them relocate to Nashville, you're going to get a Braves multiple series in a season.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
you're
you
still
get
gonna,
like a Subway type series or something like that.
They'd have to reconfigure all the divisions and stuff, which they're probably already going to have to do if they expand. But yeah, I think Nashville eventually gets an MLB team. I don't know how close it would be, but I think eventually it happens. Still have the Sounds. Speaking of, I believe their Fan Fest is today or something like that. Like they've got an event. Yeah, either today, tomorrow. So getting close to baseball season.
it is.
I believe pitchers and catchers report in 2 weeks.
I'm excited for baseball
I can't
season,
wait.
but the Cardinals stink. So I'm like, all right, whatever.
If I was waiting all day yesterday, it seemed like there was some movement on Alex Bregman.
Oh,
and I'm waiting. I want the Tigers to sign him. And I have said I will go buy a bunch of Little Caesars the night that they sign Alex Bregman. I will do my part to pay for that contract. If the Illich family, who again, they own Little Caesars, that's where they got a lot of their money. I will go buy $25 worth of Little Caesars to do my part to pay for the Alex Bregman contract if they do it. They didn't do it last night. I was waiting. I was going to do it.
Their cheesy bread's really good.
Yeah. I've always said Little Caesars is way better when you don't have somebody sitting over your shoulder saying it sucks.
Yeah, I agree. Those cheaper pizzas are delicious.
It's fine. Like it's not. Is it gourmet pizza? Absolutely not. But is it good enough? I think so.
Hey, if Bregman doesn't work out, I got a guy.
Please, God, no.
Yeah,
I don't need Nolan. We'll run with Matt Vierling and Jace Young this year for the Tigers.
Okay.
615-737-1025 is our phone number if you'd like to chime in. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we're going to be joined by Beth Hewitt, the head coach of Vanderbilt Lacrosse, as they start their season a week from today. Great conversation with her. That's coming up next here on 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. 4's Company on this Saturday morning, 1025, 1063, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Jake Wallman with you this morning. And now we are pleased to be joined on our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by head coach Beth Hewitt of Vanderbilt Lacrosse. Coach, thanks so much for taking some time today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well. I know that your season is just a week away, starting up at Cincinnati next Saturday. What's the excitement level in that building to get ready for this new season?
We're really excited. We're actually doing a kind of tune-up scrimmage today. Last one probably before next week, and I think we just have so many big pieces returning and a lot of awesome additions from the transfer portal. And I think, regardless, there's so much excitement around athletics here at Vanderbilt right now, and so I think we're excited to join the party.
You mentioned that. That was my next question. Of this year, obviously, has been so successful around West End with football winning a bowl game, and obviously what the basketball teams are doing right now. Does it have a rising tide lifts all boats feel for everybody over there in terms of the success that everybody's having?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. You see your counterparts winning, and all these guys are all friends, on and off the field and the court, and having lunch together, talking about their big games. I mean, it's just so exciting right now, and I think our girls are just chomping at the bit to get out on the field and compete. And it's such a long wait for us going through the whole fall and watching everybody else win and just have these big moments. And I think our girls are just poised and really ready to take on the season.
Beth Hewitt is with us, Vanderbilt Lacrosse. I just wanted to ask you about the NIL, along with just, you mentioned the transfer portal. College athletics is just a wild, wild west when it comes to stuff like that. Give us a little peek behind the curtain when it comes to recruitment and so forth this past offseason.
Yeah, our jobs have changed a lot. 5 years ago, we barely had the transfer portal. NIL wasn't anything. And it's just, I think on some level, it's great for college athletes. They put in so much time and they deserve a lot of the opportunities they're getting. But it's also, for me, I think it's an opportunity when you get kids who might have that fifth year and want to go for a master's degree and try out a different school or a different city. The transfer portal has been a great opportunity for us. And I think, obviously Vanderbilt Athletics is one of the best institutions in the country. And I think, we get a lot of kids that are some very talented and really smart lacrosse players that we can draw into Nashville here. And we've really tried to take advantage of it. And I think, we're seeing it this year as we're one of the top 10 transfer classes in the country. And we're really looking forward to seeing how they perform. But it's definitely a different world in college athletics right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Beth, what would be the, I guess, most gratifying thing for you as a coach of this team? Is it just having the smiles on the players' faces, or the championships? What is it for you that gets your clock ticking?
I love constructing the team. I love building a team. I love having the camaraderie of all of us together and competing. But, we get into this for competition, and our goal is to win championships. And I think, that's our big selling point here is we're all here for a reason, and we want to do it our way. We want to do it in a supportive and collaborative community here at Vanderbilt. But we want to win. That's first and foremost. And these guys are really hungry this year.
Talking with Beth Hewitt, head coach at Vanderbilt Lacrosse on 4's Company. Coach Kemper Robinson, I saw earlier this week, was named American Conference preseason midfielder of the year. Obviously a big year for her last year, but what have you seen for her this offseason as she tries to continue to grow and be a leader for your team?
Yeah, Kemper is a ridiculous athlete and incredible competitor. I think truthfully, we really felt like last year she had a good shot at that title as well. I just think the way she carries herself, number one, as a leader, first and foremost, I think she just sets the bar for the whole team. And she's been someone who's really impacted our group from the time she got here as a freshman. And just to see the way she's grown as a player and the confidence that she has, it has been really awesome. And I think, we have a pretty deep midfield this year. So picking any of them as the player of the year was probably pretty challenging, but well deserved. And I know, as soon as she found out, her first thing was, well, now time to defend it and go out and win. And as a coach, that's all you can ask for. But just really excited to see what her last year has in store and where she leads us.
Coach, I know you probably get these questions all the time, but obviously different playing in the American as opposed to most of the other programs on West End playing in the SEC. Are there any differences for you, or is it just, it's whoever's on your schedule is who you have to play? And I know there are plenty of talented teams in the American lacrosse as well.
Yeah, I think that's how we look at it. Kind of, next game up is the most important, but we try to really get as many top 10 teams as we can, ranked teams, just to make sure that we're prepping ourselves for the American Championship. And then, hopefully we're getting that bid to the NCAA tournament. But, the American is going to be really interesting this year. We have a few new teams that are added to the conference in South Florida and in Charlotte. And, again, going to the transfer portal, they've got a lot of depth right off the bat. So it's going to be pretty interesting this year. Obviously, we've got our eye too on JMU. We've, played them for the last few years, and it's someone that has really led the conference and has been the standard. So, that's the team we're chasing right now.
Beth, you mentioned earlier about roster construction and how it's one of the, I guess, favorite things for you. What player, I guess, on your roster is under the radar, people should keep their eye on throughout the season?
I would say, God, that's a hard question. There's so many of them. But, Alex Gladding is somebody that, as a sophomore, she's a defender for us. She tends to be one of our matchup defenders. She got some preseason accolades as well, which I think is really hard to do in our conference as such a young kid. But you could watch a whole game. Maybe she goes unnoticed, but for the coaching staff, she does so much that helps us get that win. And I'm really excited to see her step into more of a leadership role this year as well.
Coach Beth Hewitt is with us from Vanderbilt Lacrosse. Coach, last one for you. Obviously start on the road a week from today at Cincinnati, but then come home facing Clemson a week from Wednesday. What's your message to fans in the Nashville area to come out and watch your team this season as you try and compete for a championship in the American?
Yeah, I just think lacrosse kind of goes under the radar a little bit, and it's one of the most exciting games that you can come out and watch. I think, every time we get new fans in the seats, people are just amazed at how athletic our team is and how fast they are and, really competitive. And I think you get some of the best teams in the country that come here to play us. And, we've got a lot of transplants in this city and, I think a lot more people who know the game and want to see the game, but it's just an awesome atmosphere over here in general right now. And the energy is palpable. And I think getting over here on campus and seeing all the new construction and, just seeing some great competition. I mean, you come over here on a Saturday and you've got a lacrosse game early on, you've got a tennis match going on, and you stay late for baseball, and it's just an awesome day of sports.
Coach, thanks so much for your time this morning, and looking forward to a great season. Good luck starting next week.
Thank you guys so much.
Head coach Beth Hewitt of Vanderbilt Lacrosse joining us this morning. Excited for them. Again, like she said, Vanderbilt right now, it feels like every sport is having one of its best seasons. And I think that's a team that, like she said, maybe slides under the radar, but could be one of the best teams on West End this year.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to her just speak about roster construction. I don't know. That's just a little thing for me. I just enjoy listening to just people dissecting, because she mentioned like the recruiting aspect of it all. Everybody heard it already, but it's just fascinating to me. That's just one thing that just grabs my attention.
Right. And it's like we talk about the transfer portal in a lot of the other sports, but it impacts sports like lacrosse too, and can end up being a huge reason why these teams either make deep postseason runs, or if you don't take advantage of the portal, maybe why you don't have as great of a season as you would like. So great to have head coach Beth Hewitt from Vanderbilt Lacrosse on with us this morning here on 4's Company. Again, they start their season next Saturday at Cincinnati. That is February 8th. And then February 12th, their home opener against Clemson, 2:00 on a Wednesday. So if you want some early afternoon, go take your lunch break, go watch some lacrosse. You can do that next Wednesday, February 12th. That ends hour number 1 here on 4's Company. Plenty more to come on the show in hour number 2. Coming up next, we'll get to our question of the day. What is the greatest athletic individual performance you've seen in person? We've got some answers on our text line. You can chime in to 615-737-1025. We'd love to hear from you. That's up next. 4's Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Hour number 2, 4's Company, brought to you by LPL Financial, Nashville, and Patrick Conger. Wealth management advice for you, no matter your current situation or stage in life. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Jake Wallman with you. No Connor Newt, sadly, this morning. We had to skip Newt's notes. But a great conversation with Beth Hewitt from Vanderbilt Lacrosse. Glad to have her on in the last segment. It is time to get to our question of the day. What is the greatest individual athletic performance that you've seen with your own eyes? This comes from me seeing Michaela Blake's on Thursday night down in Florida, 53 points, the most points scored by a women's basketball player in SEC history. Also, the most points scored this year by a men's or women's college basketball player, by the way. She was fantastic. I think that is my answer. I've been trying to rack my brain for the last hour of any other individual performances I've seen in person, but I think that has to be it. I mean, 53 points
that's absurd.
it was insane. And I've seen a few, like I saw a Derrick Henry game in person where I think he ran for close to 200 and like 2 or 3 touchdowns, but 53 points and just willing Vandy to a win on Thursday night was so impressive. We'll get to our answers coming up in a second, but let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Derek is on the line wanting to chime in on our question of the day. Derek, go ahead.
Okay, I'm old. This goes way back. I've had Titan tickets. I've seen all kinds of different performances. But a young man, 1985, 86, Cannon Whitby, before the three-point line, Mr. Tennessee basketball that year, scored 44 against Knoxville Farragut, which was just so unbelievable of a team and went undefeated, was supposed to beat these guys. Obion Central County High School, just one of the most backwoods country areas in the world. 5 guys got together and took it to Knoxville Farragut. But Cannon Whitby, I think he went on to Arkansas, didn't do much after that. But before the three-point line, 43 points, put the team on his back and won a game that they never should have won. And I've seen, like I said, many performances by Steve McNair, Derrick Henry, everybody else. But this one, this many years later, still stands out to me.
Thank you for the call, Derek. 44 points without a three-point line is impressive. I mean, that is hard to do. And again, like you said, I'm sure that was a huge upset too against Knoxville Farragut. So great there from Derek. Devin and Dixon on our text line says Steve Sullivan's very first game for the Predators, he scored a hat trick. He said it was absolutely amazing. I'm sure there are some Preds games in there that we're going to get some answers on. Titans, of course, there's been some unbelievable performances. I'm sure anyone there for the 99-yard touchdown game from Derrick Henry where he ran for like 230 yards and 4 touchdowns, that probably would be up there. Nick Frazier, what stands out to you?
So there's probably, my brain's just not thinking, the gears are not shifting as strong as they should be this morning. There's probably some sort of pro sports thing out there. One that I've seen on television was the Johnny Manziel game against Alabama in 2012. That was that. Just going to state that. But in person, it's actually right down the road from here. Seven Oaks Ballpark. My brother had a 3 home run game.
Wow.
And it was incredible to watch. I'm going to be honest with
you. Keeping it in the family. I mean, 3 home run game doesn't matter at what level. Like, it's still, I mean, how many times has that happened in MLB history?
I don't know, but he was, I think, 15, 16 years old. So it was a pretty competitive. Like, it was
That's
kid pitch.
Crazy.
People were throwing junk. Some people were throwing, sliders, all the above. But oh my goodness, he got a whole. One went left field, and then I think one went left center and one went right field. I think his third one was right field, opposite field. I'm just like, wow. So yeah, kudos to my older brother, Tony. He's a really good baseball player at the time. Still is. He's got it in the chamber. He can still swing the bat from time to time. But yeah, that's my probably biggest moment seeing it in person. 3 home runs.
There are more MLB 3 home run games than you would think.
Really?
Yeah. Could you give me a guess?
Ooh, I'm gonna go one of them to be Giancarlo Stanton.
Well, a number.
Oh,
how many do you think there have been? And obviously, MLB history dates back to like the 1880s. Is the earliest one that I see here.
So I'm gonna go with 145.
Higher.
Really?
Way higher.
288.
687 3 home run games.
Wow. I don't know how much the statistics before 1900 really is to, be real true.
In the AL, the earliest one was Ken Williams in 1922. And in the NL, I think the earliest one I saw was 1884. Ned Williamson from Chicago. Cap Anson. Any of these names ringing a bell for you?
Nah.
The most recent ones, last year there were, I guess this does happen more often than you would think. Because last year there were 7 in the AL alone. Tristan Casas, Jordan Alvarez, Lawrence Butler, Juan Soto. Lawrence Butler had 2 3 home run games last year. I guess this happens way more often than I would have thought. But still, that's at the MLB level. Doing it in, in high school, you said? 16 years old?
Yeah, like probably, he might have been junior high. So maybe like 8th grade. So 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it was pretty impressive.
Really impressive.
I remember I had cheese fries in my hand. I was on the first base side. I was eating cheese fries
with the nacho cheese.
Yeah,
Dude,
man,
those would
incredible.
slap right now.
And they'd always give me Italian ice for free. The people knew me, like over at the concession stand. I was like, all right, cool, Italian ice, cheese fries.
What more could a kid want?
I mean,
I love it.
Having a front row seat to your older brother's
That's
3
awesome.
home run game. It was
That's
pretty
cool.
cool. Pretty cool.
Again, our question of the day: what is the greatest athletic individual performance? This isn't a team thing. Individual performance you've seen in person. Nick Frazier going with, is it older, younger brother?
Older brother.
Yeah. Hitting 3 home runs in a game. Eric is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, with an answer. Eric, what you got?
Hey guys, the game I think you might be thinking of is the Thursday night game against Jacksonville, where Derrick Henry had 4 touchdowns and about 199 yards rushing. I'm actually going to go to Vince Young. There are 2 performances I was at games where I can remember. This one happened against the New York Giants rookie season.
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah, they were trailing 21-0, and he led them to come from victory. Last second field goal they won. I think it was 24-21. But one game, I don't know what his final numbers are, but this was a game, if you remember, one of his, I think, last starts, it was a fourth quarter comeback he led. They were playing the Arizona Cardinals here. He drove them down the field. He threw a touchdown pass. It was 4th down, and time ran out I forget who it was called the touchdown
Kenny
pass
Britt.
as the game ended. Yeah. Against the Arizona Cardinals. So I don't remember what his final numbers were, but that was probably one of his best games. A lot of people thought he had finally arrived, but of course it didn't do much after that. But that was a game I remember because I was at that game.
Thank you for the call, Eric. Yeah, Vince Young.
Y'all take care.
You too. Vince Young might be one of those guys where it's like, you seeing him in person, you might see one of the greatest performances you've ever seen. It was the consistency that was the issue. And a guy I only saw in person one time, Chris Johnson. I'm sure there are some games out there that would qualify for this. But I feel like basketball is kind of the sport where you get the individual performances more often, right?
Yeah.
Like baseball, how many times can you really impact a game? Unless you're the starting pitcher, like seeing a perfect game would certainly qualify as this. But baseball, unless you're hitting 3 home runs in a game, it can't really qualify as one of the greatest performances you've ever seen. Football, it's such a team game. But basketball is the one where if one person is hot on the right night, they can get it going. I think I've only seen like 3 NBA games in my life, but
I've never been to an NBA game.
Really?
Yeah. I had a chance once when my brother was playing baseball in high school. They had a tournament out in like Dyersburg, Memphis.
Right.
And I was like, oh, the Knicks are playing. I'm a Knicks fan in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, the Knicks are playing the Grizzlies. Maybe I should go see Carmelo Anthony play.
Never did. Man.
I regret it. I do.
Frazier, I have a question.
Uh-oh.
What were those home runs? Were they all solo home runs, or do you remember?
I think one of them, there was a guy on second. I think that was his second home run. As for all the other ones, they might have been solos. I'm not too sure. I have to ask him when I get off the air.
Did they win? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, they won.
Nice.
Yeah. I think my brother was pitching that game actually.
Wow.
Too, so
man,
and
he's like Shohei.
Yeah, and here's a crazy thing, and I'll just get off this real quick. But my dad and my brother can throw knuckleballs. I can't, and it's just the hardest thing to hit on planet Earth. Every time we did like batting practice, because I'd always do batting practice with all the older kids, never could hit the knuckleball.
Knuckleballs, we need more knuckleballers in the league. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 in the MLB right now.
Yeah.
We need more of them.
Yeah, I agree.
The game's more fun when you've got a Tim Wakefield or R.A. Dickey out there on the mound just causing chaos with the knuckleball.
R.A. Dickey, Montgomery Bill Academy
Yeah,
guy.
Yeah, Nashville guy.
Yep.
Jake Wallman, what is your answer to our question of the day? I'm going with Michaela on Thursday.
Okay.
I think that's
a pretty good one. 53
points in a game when you only took 22 shots from the field. I think that's the greatest performance I've seen in person. Jake, what do you think?
Well, since there are probably a lot more games that I can remember. One that I do remember on TV, Grant Williams going for 43 points against Vanderbilt in 2019, hit 23 for 23 from the line.
Wow.
It was impressive. But individually, the one that I was at, Joshua Dobbs's performance in 2015 versus Georgia. Of course, both of mine are Vols players. His stat line, 436 total yards, 318 passing, 118 rushing, and 5 total touchdowns. Tennessee was actually down 24-0 with like 2 or 3 minutes left in the first half. and they ended up cutting it 24-7 in like a 5-minute real-time span. It was from 24-0 to 24-14, and then they took the lead, I believe, on a Dobbs touchdown run in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
That was when everybody thought Butch Jones was like the guy. They finally got over the hump. They finally beat one of Georgia, Florida, or Alabama, and he wasn't. 10 years later.
I remember Josh Dobbs beating the Hokies in the Battle of Bristol.
I was at that game as well.
I was there too. Tech went up 14-0, and I don't think it lasted much longer than that. That was Justin Fuente's second game as the head coach. It was Gerard Evans versus the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs, that night. Great game, great atmosphere, but not a great result for Hokie fans.
All right. There are better days after that.
Not really. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to chime in. Again, our question of the day is, what is the greatest individual athletic performance that you've seen in person? We've gotten some great answers. We'll check in throughout the show if you want to give your answer as well. But we'll move on to the Titans coming up next. It is Senior Bowl weekend, which is always a big weekend in terms of the draft process. A lot of these guys who go to the Senior Bowl, maybe they're not your first overall pick or your third overall pick or whatever it ends up being. But a lot of the late first round into the day 2 picks, they play at the Senior Bowl. We're going to talk about some of those guys who've stood out and some comments from the Titans brass at the Senior Bowl this weekend too. 4's Company here on this Saturday morning, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3. The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Jake Wallman with you this morning. No Connor Newt. Again, we miss Connor. He is sadly feeling under the weather today, so not with us. He did send in his answer for the question of the day. He says he would probably go with Lynn Bowden, former Kentucky gadget guy, against Vandy. 104 passing yards, 129 rushing, 2 touchdowns. I hate Lynn Bowden because of what was it called in 2020? Was it the Belk Bowl, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, the one in Charlotte?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
That's the Mayo, yeah.
It is Mayo now. I don't know what it was called back then, but Virginia
Cheez-It?
Tech, maybe.
You said 2020?
2020. It was New Year's Day 2020. Virginia Tech played Kentucky in that bowl in Charlotte, and Lynn Bowden threw a punch 2 minutes before the officials got control over the game. If he had thrown it 2 minutes later, he would have been ejected. Instead, technically, the officials did not have the authority to throw anybody out. So he threw a punch in a brawl, then came and, scored the game-winning touchdown with like 35 seconds left to beat the Hokies. So I will always dislike him because of that game.
It's a valid statement.
But anyway, that's Connor's answer to our question. We do have Buffalo on our phone line who wants to answer the question as well. Buffalo, what is the greatest athletic performance that you've seen in person?
Do you remember that Thursday night game up in Lambeau when the Titans beat Green Bay a couple years back when Vrabel was still the coach?
Yes, the one that started the downhill slide for the Titans since.
Yeah, you could say that was the last good game the Titans played. I was at that game. I took 17 of my family members. We're all big cheeseheads. I took them up there. We're from all over the country. We went to Lambeau. We had a big old time. Of course, Green Bay lost. But that's okay because, cheeseheads don't care if you win or lose. They just, they're just in it. They're just in it, and that was the last good game the Titans played. What do you say?
Yeah, it ended on the plane ride home.
It did.
The good feelings. That is the last time the Titans have won back-to-back games.
There you go. Y'all have a good afternoon.
You too, Buffalo. Thank you. Yeah, that is the Titans had beaten the Broncos on Sunday. And they beat the Packers on Thursday. They have not won consecutive games since.
7-3 after beating the Packers.
Yep, they were 7-3. That was the game where Vrabel hugged Ben Jones in the tunnel and said, "I've never seen anything like it."
Incredible,
man.
Those were the days.
Todd Downing's midnight ride.
Yes,
Was that night as well?
Yep,
Yeah.
that was. Yep,
That was that too.
that was.
Man,
It's been all downhill since they hopped on the plane. Coming back from Green Bay.
They haven't stopped sledding.
Maybe they
And the
should have
Green
taken
Bay
a bus.
That was the second week. I had lived here for 2 weeks.
Wow.
They have not won back-to-back games since. I've now been here for 2.5 years almost.
So are you going to enter the fan portal as well or no?
I mean, maybe Titans fans need me to leave.
No, I'm not.
No,
asking you
we're
to
not
leave.
saying
No,
that,
do I need to
no.
leave
No,
Nashville? Because
absolutely not.
apparently it's my fault. I move here, and I think since I've moved here, the Titans have won like 10 games in 2.5 seasons.
It's not your problem. That's not
Yeah,
your
that's
problem.
not you, man.
Look, it's their problem. They got to figure out what's going on inside their walls. Your walls are fine. It's all that matters. That's all that matters. You're like, if you're okay mentally when it comes to watching Titans games, that's all right. But if you want to go enter the fan portal like Chase McCabe's thinking about, you can do that.
I might have to.
That's
I'm just
fine.
kidding. I have sunk myself into the Titans too much. But it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's been rough since I moved to Nashville. Anyway, great answers to our question of the day. We do have a couple more. I haven't been seeing these on the text line, but Beth says Nani Parente got 3 gold medals at the '84 LA Olympics.
Mm.
I'm sure we haven't talked about any Olympic sports, which
Yeah,
I'm sure if anybody was in.
Thanks for the text, Beth. Thanks
Oh.
for the text. Thanks for the text.
That's a good one
Yep.
from Beth.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Dang it.
It's all right.
It's okay.
I just because I knew the name, I was like, yeah, I know who
they
that
got
is.
me.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Continuing.
Continuing, we're gonna get into the Titans here. The Titans are building up their draft process. Senior Bowl week is always a big week, and some interesting comments from the Titans brass as again, it is lying season, which I think we have to preface every time we talk about something that Mike Borgonzi or Chad Brinker or Brian Callahan say. It's lying season. So this could all be a smokescreen. But Teron Davenport, who we trust, he's one of the best out there. He put out in his article today. These are comments from Brian Callahan about Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, boy.
People had questions about Burrow's arm strength in general coming out. One of the things that makes Joe so unique, and I think you can probably put Shedeur in the same conversation, they anticipate when they throw it. They have the timing and accuracy on top of it, and that can make up for the arm strength. Those things are how you make up for maybe not having the biggest arm. If you're throwing on time and putting a ball when and where you're supposed to go, you're not going to have too many problems. Borgonzi and Callahan list out their core traits that they want in a quarterback. Is he going to lead the franchise? Is he a leader on the field? Can he process the information? Again, it's lying season, but those are not completely overwhelming glowing remarks about Shedeur Sanders, but I think it shows that maybe if Shedeur Sanders doesn't have the flashy plays that Cam Ward has on tape, where he's rolling to his right, throwing sidearm across the field and hitting his defender or hitting his receiver in the hands.
He could be hitting the defender as
He
well.
could be too. That's kind of the Cam Ward experience, right? But it is kind of a pick your flavor. Right. Yeah, maybe Shedeur doesn't have the arm strength that Cam Ward does, but the processing could be what puts him ahead of Cam Ward as we move towards April.
It's valid. Yeah. Looking at the whole Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward back and forth, to me, just hearing stuff and reading stuff, it just seems like everything's dying down on Shedeur Sanders. The hype around him's dying down, which leads me to think why the Titans would want to hype him back up to equal out,
right.
So they don't, that's their smokescreen. So,
right.
Like you're alluding to. So
we've seen, I believe it was an ESPN report yesterday or today that the buzz around the Senior Bowl is that Cam Ward is going to be the number one pick. That is the buzz. He is the betting favorite. I believe after that, it's Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, and then Shedeur Sanders is fourth. Those are the four guys. One of those four players is going to go first overall. I think it's going to be a quarterback. I know that Brinker or Borgonzi, whoever said that we won't pass on a generational talent.
Yeah.
I just don't think you cannot take Carter or Hunter with the number one pick. I think that is the only way that I come out of this draft feeling like the Titans failed, is if they stick at number one, send the pick in, and take Hunter or Carter. Not that those guys can't be great players for a franchise, but look at the Browns in 2017. They took Myles Garrett. No one is doubting that Myles Garrett is an elite player, defensive player of the year candidate every single year. He was worthy of the number one pick. They went 0-16 the next year.
True.
And then took Baker Mayfield the year after that. If that's what the Titans believe, if they think that this team is going to be picking in the top 5 next year, then fine. Take Abdul Carter if you think he's worthy of the number one pick. But Brian Callahan doesn't have the job security to go 0-16 or 0-17 next year.
It is not.
So I think it's going to be a quarterback if they stick. I think they'll go elsewhere if they trade down. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
that might be a little bit like elementary.
I half agree with you on that. And I'll tell you why on the other side.
Okay. We'll take a break. We'll keep talking about this coming up next. 4's Company. We're getting into the Titans here later on in the show as the Senior Bowl rolls on from Mobile. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Jake Wellman, 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Is this Coldplay?
It is.
a good one.
Clocks.
Clocks. Yes, that's what I was trying to think of the song. It's a good one. Jake's bringing the heat with the bump music today.
It's like that scene out of The Office, where they have to do that little triangle iPad or whatever it is.
Oh, yes, yeah,
pyramid.
with
Yeah, the
Ryan,
pyramid, yeah.
But Jim has to take over. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one. That's a good one. Nashville's best deal this week is Single Tree Barbecue in Murfreesboro. Single Tree Barbecue is a local veteran-owned and operated business, only serving world-class barbecue with the perfect combinations of sides and desserts. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios today, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. 4's company, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Jake Wallman. Talking Titans here late in the show, as the Senior Bowl going to be played today, the Reese's Senior Bowl, and we know that a lot of the picks outside, like the top 10 guys, don't usually play in the Senior Bowl because their stock's already high, but this is where you find some guys. I know Mike Green from Marshall, the pass rusher, his stock has gone way up this week. Looks like he could end up being a top 15 pick. But we were talking about what the Titans should do at number one, which that's going to be the question on Nashville Sports Talk Radio for the next 2.5 months until Roger Goodell comes to the podium or until a trade gets announced. What did the Titans do with the number one pick? I said, I think if you stick, it has to be a quarterback. If you don't want a quarterback, you trade down. Thoughts, Nick Frazier?
So I'm going to refer back to a show we did on a Tuesday, I believe, filling in for Stillman and Company. It was the gauntlet of questions you asked me about Will Levis. One of them, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if my memory serves me right, that Travis Hunter was one of those questions. Would you draft Travis Hunter as the number one overall pick and also having Will Levis as a quarterback? Is that sound about right?
Yes.
And I chose to have Travis Hunter as the number one overall pick with Will Levis as a quarterback. So, like I said, I'm 50% with you on your answer there. I think if they do stick it there, it is definitely a quarterback, but there is a small chance it could be Travis Hunter. That's my synopsis.
See, so that was pre-Bengals game, though. And that was, I remember the topic I wrote down in that segment was, can Will Levis just kind of back his way into the starting quarterback job next year if he just plays average? Like, down, I think there was 5 games left in the season at that point. If he was just an average quarterback, I think he would be the starting quarterback in 2025. He then had the Bengals game.
Yes.
Which changes everything because now, yes, you could take Travis Hunter number one overall, but who's going to be your quarterback?
And as much as I want to say that, like, I'm going to say it. Kyle McCord has been like, that's another guy that has been just grabbing attention of people. And I remember talking to TD about this before going down the Senior Bowl about just player comps. I was like, Kyle McCord and Will Howard are kind of like, to me, a Brock Purdy in a roundabout way, not for draft purposes, as in like a last pick in the draft. I'm talking about player comp. Brock Purdy for me is a system quarterback,
game manager.
You fill him in, he's going to do what you need to do. I think Kyle McCord's a little bit like that, but he's a little bit more mobile with his feet, along with Will Howard, a little bit the same. But for me, the thing that sets him different from everybody else, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just from what I've seen on television this year watching Syracuse games, his release is very quick. Like, he's able to get the ball out of his hands in the split of a second.
I do like Kyle McCord. I like Will Howard. I like Jackson Dart. But I think I've said this before. The Titans have already tried the mid-round flyer twice.
Right.
With Malik Willis and Will Levis. They said, you know what? This guy's fallen in the draft. Let's take a shot on him, see if he turns out to be anything. I don't know if you can do that again. You've either got to commit to your quarterback this year or you have to trade down and take advantage of all the value that the number one pick has.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it. I think ideal scenario is the Giants fall in love with one of these quarterbacks. They give you the world to move up 2 spots because the Titans, they have all the leverage because they do need a quarterback and the Browns need a quarterback. So for the Giants, they know if they want Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, they have to move up to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Titans, if you could get number 3 overall, next year's first for the Giants, and a 3rd-round pick, you do that, you move down to 3, then you take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I think that is a home run of a draft because, yes, you still get the elite blue chip player, but you also take advantage of all of the value that comes with having the number 1 overall pick. If you just take Abdul Carter number one, yeah, you got a great player, but it doesn't set the franchise up for future success, which I think is crucial because at some point you have to find a quarterback of the future.
Absolutely. And you mentioned also about that comment Callahan made about Shedeur Sanders and his similarities to Joe Burrow. I think you also have to put out which franchise is more desperate for a quarterback of the future. Is it the Browns or is it the Giants? Obviously, they both need one. But if you figure out which one needs it more, you can get milk more draft capital out of them, in my opinion.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of those teams, the Browns thought they had a franchise quarterback. They sent 3 first-round picks and paid him $220 million guaranteed. Now he's probably never going to play another snap in the NFL again. That would be my guess. With the injuries and everything else going on.
Yeah.
The Giants, for some reason, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll still have jobs. They're desperate to turn things around and at least give that fan base hope. Both those teams, I think, would be willing to pay above asking price for the number one pick. The question becomes, do Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan think either of these quarterbacks are franchise guys? And that's the question. Do you think that one of these guys can turn your franchise around? If the answer is yes, you have no other choice but to take them number one overall. Because if you trade back to 3, first of all, even if one of those guys does slip, like let's say the Browns go Travis Hunter instead of a quarterback, you've already passed on him once, which means you don't really believe in them that much.
Right.
So I would hesitate to take them at 3 then. And if you trade back and they both go in front of you, well, now forever either way, these guys' job is going to be tied to what Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders do. If you take them, then what they do is going to determine how your career goes.
Yeah.
If you don't take them and Cam Ward turns out to be a top 5 quarterback in the league, guess what? You're losing your job for that too, for not taking him. So there's risk involved either way. I think that those are your 2 options. Like a quarterback, you take a quarterback. You don't like a quarterback, you find someone who does, hopefully.
Yeah. To me, looking at Cam Ward, I'm forcing myself to say yes. I know it sounds terrible to say because like the Titans definitely need a quarterback. Like, don't get me wrong. Both of those quarterbacks are pretty solid. Like I've mentioned before, I'm not too high on Shedeur Sanders because of the sack ratio. But I mean, being with the Colorado Buffaloes and having 42 sacks out of the season, coming from a terrible offensive line to another, I'd say maybe mid 50% level offensive line. I wouldn't say great. So like what makes you think that you're going to have, a future with that? I mean, obviously you can get more offensive linemen, go through the ranks and whatnot. But like, if you have a guy like Cam Ward, yeah, you got to build around him. If you have a guy like Shedeur Sanders, that to me is a guy that's going to put butts in seats, and that's all you're looking for.
And that is true. Shedeur Sanders definitely brings more of the entertainment value to the Titans, which when you're building a new stadium, that's part of it. But also, if he flames out of the league in 2 years, then what? So there's a lot that goes into it. I will say right now, and I have absolutely no sources or anything like that. This is just gut feeling. You talk about your gut all the time.
Yep.
95%, I feel Cam Ward is going to be a Titan on draft night in April.
That's fair.
It feels like that's the way it's trending. He is, after watching him play, there is a little bit of Will Levis to his results.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the, all or nothing kind of way that he plays.
Right.
Like great play, horrible play. The results are the same. The way they play is not the same, though. Will Levis is tight, and he is, all over the place. Yeah. He's wired. Like, everything is high intensity from Will Levis. Cam Ward is chill. Like, yes, the results may look the same. He makes some boneheaded plays here and there. But I think Cam Ward probably fits more of what Brian Callahan wants in a quarterback.
That's fair.
Yes, he plays a little bit of hero ball, but I think you can coach him out of the hero ball. Whereas with Will Levis, it was just hardwired in his brain to just be a maniac out on the field.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be Cam Ward, which brings me to a quick question before we hit our final break here. Let's say it is quarterback at 1. It could be Ward. It could be Sanders.
Right.
That second round pick, maybe you try and trade out of it, but what position do they have to prioritize at 35? Because when you only have 2 top 50 picks, 2 top 100 picks, if you do stick there at 35, which I would doubt, I bet they try and trade back and pick up a third. But if you've got one swing at it, where do you think they have to go?
Offensive line.
That's what and there's been some good offensive linemen in Mobile. So that's kind of where I was thinking too. If you're planning on watching the Senior Bowl, that might be the position to pay attention to. Because obviously the Titans aren't going to pick somebody at the Senior Bowl at number 1.
Right.
But I think it's very likely they pick somebody who's playing today in the second round. I know Ursery with Minnesota is a guy who could be in that range. I'm blanking on the other guy's name.
From Texas?
No, but he could be in that range too. Is it
Yeah.
Cameron Williams?
Yeah, or Banks.
No, Kelvin Banks will go higher than that probably.
Like 15 maybe?
But there's a second Texas tackle that's in there too.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I'm blanking on the other guy who he's been working at right tackle this week, and I am I can't remember his name. Mike Green, the Marshall defensive end, actually kind of destroyed him in one rep. But I feel like it's been a pretty good week for him. I don't know.
It's not showing up on my
Anyway,
screen.
I can't
Oh, well.
find it, but
We'll find it in the break.
Michigan or Michigan State sounds right, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere in the Big Ten.
If the text line wants to help me, if they know who it is. But they're going Connerly, does that sound right? Josh Connerly, I don't know. Something like that. We won't dive down the rabbit hole, but there are going to be a couple of right tackle type guys that I think that you could look at. And I know there's been talk of maybe Trey Smith in free agency for the Titans. I think I'd feel pretty good about the offensive line. If you do take Cam Ward in the first round, I'd feel pretty good about setting him out there with an offensive line of Latham, Skoronski, Cushenberry, Trey Smith, and insert second round right tackle.
Yeah.
I think that's as good as the Titans can possibly do this offseason to set up the quarterback for success. Wide receiver is a different story. You're going to have to find him some weapons somewhere too. But I think that is probably the best way to build around a young quarterback is give him an offensive line like that.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, Ross Tucker was on with the Chase McJoe show earlier this week and mentioned like between J.C. Latham and Peter Skoronski, they're good, but they still need a little work. They need work.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's like you said, that's the best you're going to get out of this Titans offensive line right now because you're literally solidifying the left side, which quarterback's backside, and you just need to fill that right tackle void. And I just maybe that second round pick is the option there. I don't know because you did mention what if they do trade back that second round pick to a third round?
Try and get your third back.
Maybe a solid right tackle is there in the third round. I don't know.
Josh Connerly Jr. is
Gotcha.
Oregon tackle is
Okay.
who I was thinking of.
Big Ten.
Yes. So him, Ursery from Minnesota, and then it seems like I think early on there was a thought that Membao, Missouri's right tackle, that he might be in that range. It looks like he's going to be gone well before the Titans pick in the second round. So going to be some options for the Titans, and I think, as Jared Stillman would say, right tackle is where the Titans probably need to go on day 2 if they're going to shore up that offensive line. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Wrapping up the show on the other side, we're going to make some picks. Frazier, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what we're picking yet.
I love it.
We're going to figure it out in the break. This is the first weekend with no football whatsoever.
You know
So
what it is on darts.
Darts.
Yeah.
You can use that as your wild card. We'll give you a wild
Got
card.
it.
We'll figure out what we're going to pick on the other side, and we'll wrap up the show here on this Saturday morning. 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune into 102.5, 106.3 The Game tomorrow for NASCAR coverage of the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray. Coverage will begin at 4:30 with the race starting at 7 p.m. Coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at theGameNashville.com. Final segment here on 4's Company on this Saturday morning. We're going to make some picks here. I said we didn't know what we were picking. I have figured it out. We're going to pick college basketball. And we're going to start with the game that is about to tip off in Knoxville. Florida and Tennessee, top 10 matchup. Jake Wallman let us know earlier on in the show, Zakai Ziegler not going to play in that game. Nick Frazier, do you think the Vols get their revenge on the Gators today?
Absolutely not. I think the Florida Gators end up taking them to the cleaners once again and probably beat them by I'll make it closer. I say they beat them by 8.
8?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go. I probably would have gone with Tennessee if Ziegler was playing. I'm going to go with Florida, though. It's tough to beat a team twice in a year, especially going into Thompson Bowling. But I think without Ziegler, Florida does get it done. Jake Wallman, do you think your Vols get the win?
I want to be wrong so bad. The news on Ziegler and then, Igor Milicic, he was not on the SEC availability report. He's been dealing with an illness. Didn't practice yesterday. I want to be wrong so bad on this one, but I got to go with my brain and pick Florida. I don't think that, depth with the loss of, Cameron Carr leaving in the middle of the year, JP Estrella, having seizure, surgery, not seizure, excuse me. But he's out for the year. It's not lining up for this team.
Injuries are tough, and obviously there's no gimme games in the SEC. So Tennessee, another top 10 matchup. We're all going with Florida today. Newt just texted and said, I expect a clean sweep of the Cats. Does he think we're picking Kentucky?
No.
We are not picking Kentucky, Arkansas. We are picking Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. The number 24 Doors are in Norman today. That is a 2:30 tip. 2 p.m. pregame coverage starts here on The Game. Nick Frazier, do the Doors get the win?
Vandy's hot. Vandy is hot right now, and I think they end up winning this game by 5. It's going to be close, but Oklahoma gave Arkansas a run for their money last week. I think Vandy's going to possibly maybe even win by more than 5.
Really?
But yeah,
it's tough winning on the road in the SEC.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be only a handful of road SEC wins this year. But these are the games you need to win if you want to get into the tournament.
Yep.
For Vandy against fellow bubble teams. And Mark Byington, they had the week to kind of respond after that emotional Kentucky win. You get another court storming. I think that he's got them in the right headspace. I think they do go on the road and get the win. Jake Wallman, do the Doors sweep the Sooners in this pick segment?
Yeah, Vanderbilt's a better basketball team than Oklahoma.
Let's go.
So I'm taking Vanderbilt.
All right, we've got clean sweeps across the board. Florida beating Tennessee, Vandy beating Oklahoma. Time for our wild card picks. Nick Frazier, are you going to darts?
I'm keeping it local today here at 2 p.m. In Nashville at Geodis Park. Nashville SC has a preseason game against Lexington SC, so they're making their, I think, jump from USL 1 to the USL top league, I believe. All that little hierarchy of leagues is weird because there's no relegation system in the North American soccer. So yeah, they're, I guess, one of those teams is kind of making their jump to the next league right under MLS.
Right.
But I think Nashville SC, they've looked good their whole preseason. From what I've seen this past week being at practice, there are a lot of new names, new faces that I think a lot of Nashville SC fans will be pretty excited to watch. Eddie Tagseth, I think, let's see, Andy Nahar, a few other names out there. Patrick Yazbek, who a few people saw last year make a cameo on the starting 11. But this team in general is younger, more vibrant, just fun to watch. I think a lot of people will be excited about, especially with this high octane offense is what, everybody sees of this PJ Callahan system. So I think Nashville wins today. It obviously is just preseason games, so probably like 3. I'd say they win 3-0, 4-0.
There you go.
Not? Yeah.
Is this the first preseason game?
No, they've had other.
Okay, they've had other
games.
ones.
Yeah,
okay.
in Florida. So this is just a home preseason game.
Gotcha. Looking forward to that. I will stay local too. Predators, tough loss last night in Buffalo. I think that they bounce back today against Pittsburgh. Taking on the Penguins up there in the Steel City. I think the Preds get the win on the road to wrap up the back-to-back. And pregame coverage at 5, puck drop at 6 right here on the game. Jake Wallman, wrap us up.
I'm going with the Pro Bowl. I'm kidding.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
Flag football.
I can't pick a flag football game to end this show. I'm going to go with Tobacco Road, actually. North Carolina and Duke, one of my favorite rivalries in the college basketball landscape. I don't think North Carolina, I saw a stat, they're 1-9 or 1-8 against quad one teams, and they're like 12-1 against everybody else. They've had some tough losses this year.
Wow.
But this game is always close. Give me Duke by 4.
Yeah, I think Duke wins that one too. Did you see Bill Belichick is buying all the North Carolina fraternities pizza for this game?
Really?
Yeah, he's having it delivered to all the UNC frats, courtesy of Bill Belichick.
I wonder what he's going with. I wonder if he's like a Domino's guy.
That's a good question. Like,
or if he's Papa John's.
Or is he going like a local spot?
Yeah,
but that's going to be
local.
more expensive. I think Bill Belichick can handle it, but I think that would be the classy move from Bill Belichick if he found like whatever every college town's got a pizza place that all the students go to, right?
Mhm,
I'm looking
that's
right
true.
now.
Like at Virginia Tech, it was Benny's. That was the big one.
Knoxville had Stefano's, and then they
Right.
closed it on the strip. But there's also Pizza Palace that's in North Knoxville, I believe.
Yeah, so there's I'm sure there is a college pizza restaurant in Chapel Hill that like all the students go to late night. I
Gotta
wonder
be.
if maybe Bill Belichick is splurging for that instead of the Domino's
He might be.
mix and match deal or whatever it might be.
I got a full list of them.
Oh, you got 'em?
Yeah, these look phenomenal.
All right.
Holy
Now I'm
cow.
getting hungry.
I don't want to just name names because I don't want no free shots.
Yeah,
but,
no
like,
free shout outs, but
a lot of these pizzas look pretty darn good. I mean, not Neapolitan style, but a mixture of like Papa John's and a New York style. Wow.
we might have to get to the bottom of this. I wonder if there will be a story written about this, but yeah, Bill Belichick trying to make a good impression on the UNC student body, delivering pizzas to the fraternities for the UNC Duke basketball game.
It's
tonight.
kind of like that scene out of The Office where they go to Alfredo's.
Right.
They go
Is
to the
this
wrong Alfredo.
Alfredo's Pizza or Alfredo's Pizza Cafe? Yeah,
Pizza
whatever.
by Alfredo.
Yeah.
So this might be one of those situations where Bill has to make sure he gets the right one.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And maybe North Carolina can pull off the upset. Looking at College Game Day inside Cameron Indoor right now. And we are getting ready for a full day of college basketball. You can listen to Vanderbilt taking on Oklahoma, 2:00 pregame, 2:30 tip here. Preds right after at 5 p.m. right here on the game. That does it for us here on 4's Company. For Nick Frazier, Jake Wallman, and Connor Newt, we hope you feel better. Jake Lyman signing off. Have a great weekend.
Peace.